This episode is sponsored by Shutterstock.com. With over 20 million high-quality stock photos, illustrations, vectors, and video clips, Shutterstock helps you take your creative projects to the next level. For 30% off your new account, go to Shutterstock.com and use offer code GAMEBREAKER6. This episode is also brought to you by Audible. For a free 30-day trial and to receive a free audiobook, just head on over to audible.com/gamebreaker.
Gamebreaker TV.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to This Week in MMO, episode 149 for June. What is it? I don't know. It's Sunday. That's all I know. I've lost track of all time and space. Coming up on today's show, we're going to talk about Final Fantasy XIV. EverQuest Next is one step closer to being real. And The Division is a shooter, first and foremost. And The Division is not that persistent. All that and more, but first, joining us as always, Mr. Jason Winter. How are you, sir?
Doing fine, but I have a boo-boo.
You call it a boo-boo? Honey boo-boo?
Yeah.
You have a honey boo-boo?
No. Well, will you kiss it and make it better, Gary?
No, absolutely not. And joining us...
Good. That was the right answer.
From Derpy Dragon, the free-to-play.tv, Mr. Michael Byrne. How are you, sir?
I feel like I should leave you two alone for a minute.
No, I'll just disconnect on Jason. You don't have to leave us alone. That's okay. Yeah. You gotta get somebody else to kiss that finger. Let's start the show off. Final Fantasy XIV, been in beta, lifting off the NDA. Basically, you can talk about it. You can do some screenshots, can't do video, all that good stuff. Michael Byrne and I have been playing over the weekend. I got to about level 10-ish. Byrne got to, what, 15?
Yeah, in this phase, I got 1 or 2 jobs at 15, 16 before I swapped out.
I figure we start the show off and just kind of throw some out there with what we've been feeling about the game, because obviously XIV's got a long-running history on this show as being terrible.
It's got a long growing history.
Yes.
Mine's still treated as if it were brand new.
Long distance history.
Byrne, tell me first, what do you think? You've been in there a couple times now. Beta's NDA's lifted. What are your first thoughts coming from the old school 1.0?
If you stayed in 1.0 all the way until it was shut down, there's a good chance that 14 2.0 isn't probably going to capture your interest just because of how in-depth 1.0 was. But 2.0, definitely miles and miles above 1.0 for the standard MMORPG player, not just that small niche that really loved 1.0.
Wait.
Yes.
Who is that?
Believe it or
not.
not.
Who is that small niche? What is it, like 3 people? Come on. 1.0 sucked ass. It sucked so bad that they came out and they were like, we're shutting this down. It's so bad. We're just going to shut this down and go away for a year. Sorry. I'm sorry. If you liked 1.0, you better go get your head checked.
I didn't like 1.0. I played 1.0 after each major update just so I could stay in tune with what they were changing. But believe it or not, yes, there is that group that, okay, they fought through all the slog to get the systems the way that they at least could be functional and play the game. And they did all the high-end content to get their different relic-type weapons, things like that. We're talking about it. It's a
Final
small
Fantasy
group.
LARPers? Like what? Like furries? What are we talking about? We're talking about a hardcore RP community, right? They're totally just cybering in Final Fantasy 1.0. Come on, let's be real.
Hey, I didn't say I was part of them. I agree, it sucked.
It was
there
bad.
Is a group that is not going to like the
we
changes.
said it was really bad way in the beginning, and everybody called us out on, guys are hating on Final Fantasy, and then the company came out and said it sucked, and they were still like fighting for it. To think that there's still people fighting for that game.
Go look at the forums. Yax puts it perfectly in the chat. They were Final Fantasy fanboys who ignored all logic and reason. Those were the ones that continued
Yes,
to play
exactly.
14.
They needed their head checked.
Totally
exactly.
right.
Yes, I would completely
They
agree.
do. They need their head checked.
They need their head checked. So 2.0 of Realm Reborn is finally here. So
Yes.
I'm going to retract your statement for you that you're even acknowledging the 1.0 fanboys. We're going to retract.
I have to acknowledge my Final Fantasy brethren, even if they're
retract
nuts.
that.
You really want to be linked to them? You really want to? The furries who are cybering, apparently?
That's all
Oh,
it is,
no. Now they're furries.
Those were 3 people, man. Don't worry about it. 2.0
right.
is Realm
Yes.
Reborn is like, is it going to capture everyone? No, but is it damn solid? I don't know. First 10 levels. It's hard to say what a game is. It's an MMO, right? So it's huge. I gotta say, it is a completely different game. Completely different. Like everything about it is completely different in a good way.
Absolutely. Top to bottom, totally different. It doesn't do, I mean, Gary, you and I talked about this. It doesn't do anything groundbreaking, right?
No.
It's at least 1 through 10 or 1 through 20-ish. It's standard questing formulas, standard storytelling type text box reading, things like that. There's going to be voice added. Voice added later on some of that stuff.
A lot of reading.
So
even in the opening, I was like, oh my God. Wow. It takes like 15 minutes just to get in the game. Like opening cinematic is like 6-7 minutes. And then it's like so much text, which I think they could pare that down a bit. But I kind of like the Final Fantasy. It kind of gets you into the Final Fantasy setting and the feel and kind of sets up the story. One thing that's funny, Jason in pre-show, you actually brought up a point, like kind of, making, you have not played it.
No, I haven't.
But you made a really interesting point because you kind of said something to the effect of thinking that the game wasn't sort of made for a Western audience and more for an Eastern audience.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's completely the opposite. It's completely the opposite. I mean, there are so many quests. There are so many mobs. It's definitely set up like a traditional Western MMO where it's like zones, tons of mobs, quest to quest to quest to quest to quest to quest to quest. Like,
what about like the things we were making fun of when we saw videos? Like, they absolutely don't move at all, and there's like a 4.5 second global cooldown. I mean, how are you feeling about that stuff?
So I want Mike to chime in on this because the global cooldown for me is still one of the little things on the combat side that I'm like, it feels a bit slow. But, and I don't know this for fact because only going up to level 10, but Mike, you were explaining to me that what you've heard is that as you gain more skills and progress through the game, that some of the skills actually affect the global cooldown, and that apparently at later levels, that's going to get sped up dramatically.
Yeah, and Jason, at its core, it's a tab targeting game. So the tank's going to be keeping the target busy as best they can while everybody else stands in their predetermined spots, does their thing, and moves out of the green shit. It's that type of Western style. But to Gary's point, yes, the global cooldown was reduced by half a second between alpha and beta. But as the monk is a perfect example, and we posted a piece on Gamebreaker about a new class video a few weeks ago. The monk is a perfect example where as you level, different skills chained in different orders can actually impact the global cooldown, as well as gear at certain points in the game as well. So a monk who relies on speed and positioning has the standard global cooldown when they start a chain and rapidly faster and faster abilities as they go because they've dropped the global cooldown through gear and skills. So there are influences to it. It's not 3.5 or bust. Depending on your class and what you can do, you can impact that with gear or skills.
That is really odd. I mean, I don't know if I'm not saying it's bad or anything, but it's just unusual to have a game where the global cooldown is a factor that is something you can change throughout the game.
Yeah, no, and that may be some of the stuff that, like, we're saying, like, they're not breaking the mold, but there may be some things in here that they are kind of doing definitely different. Like I said, it feels like a traditional Western MMO from the questing standpoint, and it doesn't feel, it's not like there's just tons of grind mobs thrown in there with no quest, right? Just to go grind for levels. Like, it's not really like that. It's definitely set up more in a traditional World of Warcraft kind of sense where there's like definitely like, you'll have plenty of quests to do. You have plenty of direction to go and kind of run in certain ways and do a lot of stuff. I got to say the story quest stuff I love. I love the story quest. I actually wish there was more of it. How many levels? How does that happen? Every 15 levels or 10 levels? Is that sort of
every 5?
Every 5. So that kind of comes along with like the major story arc. which usually has some cinematic cutscenes, possibly, instance kind of stuff. They've added dynamic events. Basically, they're called fates. So things happening in the world where you're just running around, and random massive invasions for public sort of quest kind of stuff to happen, which is cool. So they're doing a lot of the traditional stuff we've seen. It's done really well. I haven't seen anything that's just kind of like blowing your mind, but everything is really, really, really well put together so far. I also really enjoyed, Mike, I don't know if you experienced this, the open world instant stuff. So it's actually like, you're just on a normal quest and you come along something, and all of a sudden it takes you to an instance and basically a whole story scene, cut scene, the whole thing, and you're kind of solo doing something. I really enjoyed that stuff.
Yeah, it's a nice little way of keeping the story going in the world itself, but being able to privatize the story to the individual player. You're right, it is nicely done. You come to specific locations. You're not taken away to a map that you've never seen before. You're actually doing the events in the world, and they do get challenging. So, I mean, at level 15, Justin at Gamebreaker and I were trying to take one on at pretty much the same time, and we wiped 3 or 4 different times before we came up with various strategies that worked. So I hope that progression continues, because being a Final Fantasy XI fan, I love the challenge of not only leveling, but endgame was ridiculously hard pre-Abyssia in Final Fantasy XI, and I hope that difficulty trend keeps going in 14, but it's nice to see this early in game.
And that is something that, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it was Yoshi P who actually, nobody has really seen high level endgame right now. They're keeping all that stuff under wraps, a lot of the areas. They have sort of hinted, though, that post level 20, 25-ish, the game difficulty and group orientated stuff gets pretty hardcore, and they are looking at the Final Fantasy XI crowd as sort of like a model for that to kind of build that out. Am I right by saying that?
Yeah, you are. And you can see the basics of that type of system already at the lower levels, too. When you were running around doing your quest solo, in the starting areas, if you pulled a monster, you only got that one monster. Even if there was another one right next to it. They really didn't link at the low levels. If you and I are in a party and we go to pull that same monster, the game scales the difficulty of just not the overall experience or the dungeon or anything, but just the actual questing gets scaled too. When you pull that monster, monsters around it will come, because now it's set that they see we're in a party, so the monsters are going to team up a little bit too. So they're already doing very small things at low levels to increase the difficulty. I can't wait to see what they're doing 25, 30, 35 as you approach level cap of 50.
And what about the Jason had his other part of his question? What did you feel about this? Because he asked about, Jason, you wanted to know, and we talked about this from the videos, was the movement and the lack of movement we saw when fighting mobs. Again, only 10 levels, right? So you're still complete noob. I've only encountered really one mob in all of 10 levels that I actually needed to possibly move slightly. And to be honest, I could have taken the damage and just I'm playing an archer. I could have easily just stood in the red stuff and taken the damage and still, taking them down. Are you finding though that we only got the 15, so it's only other 5 levels, but are you finding that you have to move around a little bit more?
Well, in beta phase 2, my archer, I got it to level 30. So, and I was able to run one more instance besides the initial one in Gridania, Tamtara, Deepcroft. I wish I could say yes, and the combat's incredibly engaging and exciting, but it's just not, being honest. And in the closed beta phase 2 wrap-up I did on Gamebreaker, as that ended, that was still my biggest question mark about the game, was how did the combat evolve as you approached 30, 40, level 50 and endgame content. When we fought instance bosses, yes, there was a little more movement there, but
that's what I was going to bring up.
It was movement in the way that original or Vanilla WoW and Burning Crusade had movement, where your casters would stand back from the boss, and then, there's one ability I have to move for, and once I've moved for it, I can stay where I'm at then. It's more that movement than something like WildStar, where you're rapidly dodging telegraphs left and right.
Yeah, it's definitely not that. No one's doing that. But yeah, the boss mob that we got to check out at E3, had that, where he's dropping down Inferno or something like that on the ground, and you'd have to move out of the red stuff, all that kind of thing. So there was some more. You think that's because you think the lack of movement is sort of an Easter thing, and because we hear that a lot of them play in internet cafes with one hand and a mouse, and they smoke.
I actually watched one of the dev videos from I think from E3 a couple of weeks ago where they were showing how to do various basic controls and so on. And when they showed here's how you do it with the PlayStation 3 controller, you have to like the 4 thumb buttons, L1, L2, R1, R2, bring up different menus. Then your X, triangle, square, or circle button can actually do the power. I get how if you have to have that kind of manipulation to rattle off powers, they don't necessarily want you to also have to do your left stick to move around as well. So maybe that's more of a factor that it's kind of optimized for the console players as opposed to the PC.
Yeah, Mike. I actually like to hear your comment, your thoughts on the controller, because I have not tried it with the controller. I watched Mike Shaftnit try and do the boss fight with the controller at E3, and it looked painful. Like he absolutely hated it. It was just like, this is awful. Like especially even just things like tab targeting. You can't lack of tab targeting, I should say. But you said you plugged in the controller and you actually started playing with it and you haven't stopped.
Yeah, in beta phase 2, which is when controller play opened up, I did nothing but play that entire phase with a controller. I have no intention of playing the game on the PlayStation. I'm going to be a PC player, but I really wanted to put it through its paces. I had to give it credit. It was easy to learn. It was through maybe half an hour of gameplay and the tooltips, you'll pick it up. I can understand why Shaft may have had problems trying to pick it up in 2 minutes for a boss fight. It's not that intuitive. But it is MMO intuitive in that just a half hour or 40 minutes of regular gameplay, you're going to pick it up. There are those issues that you brought up and Shaft brought up about the targeting, though. It's not bad if you're walking around by yourself questing, or even in a party of 4 doing Temtara Deepcroft. I really didn't have any issues with it. But when you hit those fate events that have 30 players right there and 15 to 20 mobs running in at the same time. You're basically
cycling through everybody in the area, right, to try and get that mob targeted. And it's just like, and then you pass it up and you got to go back, and it's like, yeah, and even the limiting factors that they do allow you to do, where you can set it so that it'll only target party or only target monsters. When you have 15 or 20 monsters, hitting right 19 times is not the most feasible way of targeting something in a reasonable amount of time. I think most people watching this show are probably PC players, including most of us. It feels great on a PC. It really does feel good. The engine still looks great and it held up. The graphics look gorgeous. And actually now you don't need a supercomputer to play it, and it actually still looks really good. So that's a good thing. Because I remember when I got 1.0, man, I was chugging on my machine, and I had a pretty good machine back then. Now it's like smooth sailing. I have to really say, people got to check this out. Like if you're a fan of 1.0 or you're a Final Fantasy fan or you're looking for a new MMO, I think it's going to be really interesting. They have really just completely made a new game. Like basically just forget everything you know about 1.0 because it pretty much doesn't exist. I've been looking for copy pasta anywhere. I met one of the associate producers at E3 and I was like, oh yeah, where's the copy pasta? And he started laughing. I was like, have you ever seen that video? I was like, yeah. It was one of our guys who put that out. He was like, oh man. He's like, yeah, there's none of that, man. He's like, we went back and made sure that everything was kind of gone over. So, the world looks gorgeous. I'm trying to think of what are the highlights are really kind of stood out for me from 1.0. Anything else you have, Mike? The environment obviously is beautiful. The music is on par with Final Fantasy and orchestration and things like that. The story, what little we are actually having access to, is making me want to see more of the story, even though they're blacking certain things out to avoid spoilers and blocking us from going further at certain levels. I'm okay with more traditional MMORPG gameplay and systems, and when you throw a Final Fantasy skin on that, I'm a big fan. I'm going to point out your flaws, but I'm also willing to deal with them because you do enough solidly and you have an IP that I enjoy. Jason, has your interest peaked at all now?
From 0 to, yeah, maybe. Yeah, it certainly has, because it definitely was, I'd say, 0 before you guys were telling me some nice things about it today.
Yeah, no, I think anyone who, like I said, you're not looking to break the mold, but anyone who likes the Final Fantasy franchise and then looking for a tab targeting MMO, like nothing super outside of the box. I think it's definitely at this point it feels like it's definitely worth a second shot, which not many MMOs get. But I actually do feel like after playing it this weekend, especially, I think it's worth giving it a shot. Wow, I might not have to throw this anymore.
What? How much did that hurt to say?
That I won't throw this anymore. I know. I might even have to take. I wrote terrible on the front as DOA. That was because I added Terra to this box, but they still suck. So now I kind of feel bad. I treated this so bad. I think I smashed the disc too, didn't I?
Didn't you like break it and snap it in half?
No, but I
With a hammer
hammered
or
it.
something?
It's all effed up. I
hammer, that was-
hammered it one time. Yeah, it's kind of broken and smashed, but I don't know. Who knew this was worth
Yeah,
money on eBay?
The one big thing that, and chat's bringing it up now, is, and it's probably important that we talk about it, is it is still going to be sub-based, and that's going to be a huge barrier to a lot of people.
Is it at this point?
Yeah. I mean, the people like me that are Final Fantasy fans and have had some hands-on time and are looking at it going, okay, yeah, I'm willing to pay for this. We'll find out how long I'm willing to pay for it later, but I'm willing to pay for it now. If you don't get into the beta, which betas are for testing, I know, but open betas are pretty much marketing campaigns anymore. If you don't get any hands-on time or free time from some portion of this, I see a large portion of the community that's just not going to pay a sub to give them another chance at getting the sub from them. And chat's bringing that up left and right. That's an issue. I want it to be sub, but that's because I've played it and I'm willing to sub.
And that's the thing. Like if you would have asked me that before, I have had now two beta weekends with it, being burned like we were on 1.0, I think I would have agreed with the chat room. I think now that I've played two beta weekends, I don't know. I feel like so far, again, hard to tell a lot in 10 levels. But I shouldn't say that. I say hard to tell a lot in 10 levels, but you can also tell a lot in 10 levels. Yeah. You knew in 10 levels on 1.0 something was not quite right. You stuck with that girlfriend a little bit longer than you should have, and you should have gotten out earlier, but you stuck because you thought something was going to change, but it really didn't. But you kind of knew within 10 levels, like, something's not right here. And I got to say, in 10 levels of this version, I'm like, there's something right here. Like, there's a lot of good here. So.
She got it right now. Oh,
yeah,
baby.
Yeah, so I think the people that have played it and decided it's just not for them, fine. You're gonna have that. The people that have played it and think that it's for them are already okay with paying the sub. The question now is, how long will they sub? What kind of content holds their sub for a long time? I think the people that haven't had any hands-on time with it, that are at least, like, maybe Jason, mildly interested in it, want to check it out and at least look at it. Mm-hmm. But if I can't get a day free or 7 days free, do I really want to shell out a sub for 1 month just to give it a shot when I'm kind of teetering to begin with right now? Anyway,
well, not just a sub, but I'm at another $50 or $60 for the box too. It's like,
right.
Yeah,
right.
If you don't have the original, yeah.
Wait, what's the deal going on if you have the original?
Yeah. Oh, if you have the original Big Daddy, you don't need to buy anything. You're going to get version 2.0 as just an update patch, my friend.
Oh, really? I don't even know this.
Yeah. Yep.
So you just went and bought the collector's edition for 2.0 just because you had to, but you don't really have to.
The excuse is my wife needed a copy.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah.
She was playing with us this weekend too. Why? Although you can't really complain though. The PC copy is $29.99 if you don't want all the digital extras, and that's on launch day. Okay. We've seen a lot worse.
Does the update possibly come with any free time? Does it come with a free month?
There's back and forth about how many days you'll get free. There is going to be some type of free day component. I don't want to say 30, but I think I've read that somewhere. But don't quote me, because then chat room will be very mad at me.
Okay, but then
that's some type of free day component if you had version 1.0. Yeah.
So that's pretty understandable then. So because most people are going to have the bad taste in their mouth are going to be like, well, I don't want to pay money, and so the people who actually were burned, really burned, by Mike Byrne. They actually are going to get to try it out for free, sort of. Not free, but they're actually going to get like some game time at least to see if it's worth that sub fee. So that's really cool.
Yeah, and chat room's confirming pretty much what I said. There are rumors, but nothing confirmed as far as the number of days, although everybody's kind of leaning towards about 14.
Did you buy version 1.0, Jason?
No, I did not.
Oh, okay. Well, then you're screwed. You just got to go.
So
for it
I'm
then.
still screwed. I still need the 14-day.
You got to spend $30 then. The game, wait,
Right.
2.0 is only going to be $30.
Yeah, the normal, just no collector's edition, no extras or anything, is $29.99. And then for the PC, the collector's edition is $60.
$30. That's like a movie night. That's a movie
Well,
night.
that's the digital collector's edition. The physical one's like $10 more.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna go out and recommend. I'm putting the Game Breaker recommendation of try Final Fantasy XIV right now. It was that good, man. We played it. Well, I mean, we played it for 2 days and it was nonstop. And I'm like, I can't find anything wrong with it. Like, you know, everybody wants me to say something bad about it because of 1.0. The only thing I can say from my perspective that I didn't fully love about it is just that it doesn't do anything like really outside of the box.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to say, like, killing 10 rats again, I was just sort of like, all right, I'm killing 10 rats. But that's every MMO, right? So I'm just like sort of generalized. But like everything else, I'm like, wow, it does everything great. Like all these quests, like all the jobs, the crafting is fun. Like I did a bunch of crafting last night. Like the crafting's actually a lot of fun. I was making good gear. I don't know. I'm going to say try it and we got to start a show. All right.
And I like how the crafting and gathering actually is ability based. You know, it feels like a combat role where you have to use certain abilities at certain times to succeed to a greater degree. It's good stuff.
Yeah, I think they did a good job. I think they did a really good job. It's going to be interesting. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about SOE. So SOE Live, which is coming up, I believe, in August, which is in Vegas. It's not here, but EverQuest Next's official name has been revealed. And are you ready, gentlemen? Are you ready? Are you ready? We can stop using the code name EverQuest Next because the name is EverQuest Next. Yep. That's the title they're going with. EverQuest Next. What do you think?
They should have gone with that for the Xbox. Xbox Next.
What do you think? Do you think they should have disrupted the whole thing because everybody's been calling it EverQuest Next now for so long and the media has been talking about it for so long, calling it EverQuest Next. Should they have disrupted that and come up with some completely different? You know, it had that word EverQuest in it. So what would they, they're not going to do EverQuest 3.
Why not? I mean, you already numerically did 2.
Yeah, but this is like a new beginning, I think, of like, it is, I think they want to communicate like this isn't EverQuest 3. Like, no, we don't want that.
3, we would have been calling it 3 right from the start, probably.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. They could have gone with anything, but I don't know. I guess everybody was just sort of like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't even know this was like a major deal. I thought that was just what it was. I didn't know that it had to be official still.
Oh, you actually thought EverQuest Next was just the official name? And we were just like, nobody really knew. I think we all just assumed it was a code name and we just didn't know. Because when you'd ask Smedley like months ago about EQ Next, he'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what that is.
Right.
Like, make comments like that. Right. We just didn't know. So I don't know.
It makes sense.
What are they going to call the next one though? EverQuest 4? EverQuest Nexter?
EverQuest Nextius. I don't know how you do this.
What's in the script? What's Dom's idea?
What's Dom's idea? I don't know.
For EverQuest.
For EverQuest? Oh, for EverQuest. That was actually, wait, was that? No, that was the director
that's
of
not
development.
Dom.
That was not Dom. That was the,
No.
that's the director of development for the franchise. He was joking around saying that they were throwing around internally saying it should have been the number 4 EverQuest for EverQuest. Yeah. Which is it's hilariously bad. It could actually have been quite good. Titancast doesn't seem so stupid now, does it?
Doesn't seem like a bad name at all, my friend.
I can't wait for SOE Live. They were doing some closed door stuff at E3, but I couldn't get to check it out. I couldn't get in there. So there's going to be a lot revealed from what I hear at SOE Live. That's when everything gets thrown on the table. We're going to get, I think, a lot more than just some screenshots, and I think we're going to get a lot. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know this. I wouldn't be surprised if there's hands-on at SOE Live. That's what I'm hoping. I
don't know, because I think back to like when I went to SOE, I guess it was Fanfare still a couple of years ago when they announced PlanetSide 2. when they didn't really have hands-on there. They just had a good lot of information, a couple nice videos. So that's what I kind of think we would be at for EverQuest next. Although Smedley did always say we're going to have something beyond a beta, whatever that means. But
Yeah, I think there's going to be a little bit more. I don't know. I don't know what it is. They've just been, the SOE peeps have just been like, are you coming to SOE Live? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, yes, you definitely need to come to SOE Live. I'm like, definitely? They're like, definitely. That's all that they keep doing. They're just like, you definitely need to come to SOE Live. So I don't know. I don't think I even joked and I said, hey, I'm not just going to get a screenshot or something, am I? Like, like we did last time, like 3 years ago. And they're like, no. No. Like, so I think we're going to get, I don't know, maybe not a hands-on that would be the best thing we could possibly get, but I think we're just going to get everything about what it is, what this game really is about and the sandbox elements of it that we're hearing so much about. So I think it's going to be a massive Forever Quest dump. I'm just going to call it Forever Quest. Let's not call it EverQuest.
I think you're getting hands-on too. I think you're going to get to play, Gary.
I think they need to. I think they need to right now, right? PlanetSide 2 is kind of like in a weird spot. They're not doing so well. The Enclave just left, from what I heard.
Yeah.
They need
it's a little brutal.
Yeah, it's a little bit, they're a little shaken up over there. I think they need some really good press right now. And EQ next. Well, I'm definitely going to go over to SOE Live to cover that. So hopefully we get some more stuff there.
Everybody making more sandboxes, and Gary's just falling into every single one of them.
Thank God. Thank God you guys are all trying to figure out that you can't make these theme park games forever. Can't do it. All right, I want to talk about some Destiny stuff, but Shutterstock. We love Shutterstock, and I'm so glad to have the amount of sponsors. Right now, I want you to go over, set up a new account, and if you use the promo code GameBreaker6, we're going to get yourself 30% off on your Shutterstock account. If you need vectors, photography, video footage, whatever you need, you're building a website, you might have a creative project for a college or school or a website, whatever you need, go over to Shutterstock. They really have such amazing artists and people who actually, know what they're doing in this realm, not like me. Like, I can't make icons, man. Like, how long it would take me to make something as simple as that, like a silhouette? There's a lot of work that goes into this stuff. It's actually kind of amazing. You start looking through all these icons and you're looking for certain things that like look as simple as like a gray or a black and white icon, and you start seeing the difference between how different artists interpret different symbols. It's really quite interesting. Like some of them are just so much better than others. I love this little icon set of shields and stuff like that. But definitely want to check it out. Go over there and make sure to check out, I think I've shown you guys it before, but I want you to check out what's called Spectrum. And this is great. I use this all the time, trying to come up with ideas and different things. If we're looking at it on their website and we kind of like have a keyword or something, but we're not sure, we want to just kind of explore stuff. You throw a keyword in here and then you just start shifting the color palette around. And depending on the color palette, it just starts giving you all different images. It's a really great way to kind of just get your juices flowing, your creative juices flowing, and find like cool stuff like that. It's a great pick. Check it out. Go over to Shutterstock.com, set up a new account, and use promo code GameBreaker6. Going to get yourself 30% off today. Shutterstock.com. All right, so Joystick spoke with Destiny's engineer lead, Mr. Chris Butcher. Chris was, he seemed pretty adamant that FPS and shooter and action game was what Destiny is. So what do you guys think? Are we going to have to change the name of the show? I mean, no one wants to be an MMO these days. I feel like we're going to have to change like This Week in MMO. Nobody, it's FPS and shooter and action game.
The interviewer asked him point blank right at the start, is this an MMO? And he's like, we think it's an FPS. We think it's action and shooter and fun. And he never says no. He doesn't say, no, it's not an MMO. Screw you, get out of here. But I mean, my thought of that is not as much what we've talked about, how people just don't want to be called an MMO, they don't want to be pigeonholed or whatever, but maybe it's more like they don't want to feel bound by the conventions of an MMO. Because if he says, yes, it's an MMO, then everyone's like, okay, it's got to have crafting, it's got to have raids, and it's got to have grouping, and it's got to have, that's what an MMO is, darn it. And Guild Wars 2 doesn't have raids, and that's stupid, or Blindside 2 doesn't have quests, and that's stupid, because people...
And it does, and you're right. And it does immediately like think of, I mean, now we have action MMOs, but at the same time, the first thing you think of is tab targeting. You also think of hot bars, like, with keys assigned to them. So it does have a lot of, ingrained sort of implications of what the game's of course going to be like. And console players don't want to hear that at all. So persistent world, I think, is going to be the buzzword of the rest of 2013 and 2014.
TWIPA?
TWIPA.
This week in persistent.
I mean, basically, I guess you just, like you said, you describe it's like a persistent world with social features, right? I mean, you're playing with friends or you can solo. And then when you get to public areas, you're going to see other players and things like that. And I guess you run into them seamlessly with, there can be, hopefully there's no matchmaking or any loading screens or any kind of thing on the UI. It just sort of happens.
No, it's all back-ended. Yeah, it's actually pretty slick what they're doing there. And I'm not a huge shooter guy, but you're running around your closed environment. You get to a point in the world that's open, and instantly on your way in, no UI, no menu, nothing like that. It matchmakes you into your 3-person squads for whatever event is going on. Also, you don't have to do it either. Like if you're on your way to do some other quest area, you can walk straight through the thing and out the other side to go do what you were doing.
Mm-hmm.
They want to give people the ability to opt in and out or have content for themselves if they want to be the voiceless single alone warrior if they want to. Pretty slick though, how there's no queue system or anything. It just matches you up as you go in. You don't even see it happen until it's done.
I think for a lot of MMO players, including myself, the big question is going to be like, how big are these public areas that you're going to see other players, right? Is it just a small circle that sort of contain that one boss fight, or do you think it's entire zones? What do you think, Jason?
I mean, it's something we can't really tell just by looking at the little piece of footage that we saw when they went through that one area. I mean, almost something that looked like it could have been like the size of a dungeon, something fairly small. I would think that, again, kind of veering away from the MMO architecture, you'd want to kind of small, a little more personal, where you're more likely to find people. Because I think that's an issue we have with a lot of MMOs. If they are this big persistent world, on some level we always say we want that. We want to have this big area to explore and so on. And then we all cluster together in these little areas where the dungeons are, where the great dynamic events, whatever, are. So I think you're going to have to see that trend more so, having somewhat smaller areas where action is a little more happening. Unless it's something that's intentionally supposed to be very spread out, like a DayZ kind of game, but that's not where I think an action shooter would fall.
Doesn't sound like it. What about PvP? Have we heard anything about PvP?
Besides confirmation that they will have it?
Yeah.
That's about it. Yeah.
In fact, on their own forums, it's just post after post after post on Bungie's forums about, here's 6 different PvP modes. Which one do you want to see in the game? But it's all the community that's talking. Nobody from Bungie is getting into those conversations besides saying, yeah, we'll have some PvP for you. Is it open world? Is it arena style? Is it balanced? Is it classed? Is it leveled? We'll have PvP.
We'll have PvP.
Yeah, we'll have that.
What was it, Jason?
No, just confirm.
I mean, I guess if they want it, they could kind of go both ways with this. I guess we'll wonder what people would be interested in. If they wanted, they could have huge areas with tons of players, and then solo or co-op sort of instances like scattered all over the world, which would probably be pretty close to what we would consider an MMO. Or I guess they could have like these, just really small, not so massive public areas that are just sort of like centered around boss fights. Not as much MMO, but could end up.
If I had to guess, that's the way they're going. If I had to guess right now,
I'm kind of agreeing with you, but I do wonder if that's going to be able to actually create a much sort of like immersive, cool experience with you and a group of your friends. Like you have to play it a different way than an MMO, and you're probably not going to like be as massive as what we're used to. But I wonder if it can really kind of give that. Like I always bring up like playing like just games like Skyrim and Fallout and things like that, and I always get like 10 hours into those games, and I'm like, man, I wish I was just playing with this with my buddy. Like, it'd be fun because now I'm like, this game's great, but I wish I had somebody to kind of like talk to and experience this with. And I wonder if that's what Destiny is going to sort of feel like.
Probably.
We
At
hope.
least the way I'm thinking. Yeah, I think it's going to be a little on the smaller side, but I hope there's definitely that I don't really want to play this game alone. And if I do, I should probably just go play Halo, right? I hope that there's more of a draw that's, this is the game that, you know, Gary, Jason, and I are going to jump on every Friday night and go do our thing and have a blast. I hope so. But there's just too many damn questions right now.
But
Answer some questions.
Will they also try to work in something, you know, because, you know, shooter fans are used to, you know, lobby-based, you know, 8-on-8 death matches, whatever. They're going to lump some of that in, too. Like, which is kind of like an MMO sort of battleground deal.
I also think this is going to be a nightmare to balance on the PvP front with all the weapons customization and all the gear customization they're putting in. I think it's going to be a little bit of a nightmare, but I'm also a fan of PvP doesn't really always have to be balanced, in my opinion, but that's a totally separate topic.
All right, another game that came out of E3, The Division. I want to talk a little bit about that, but really quick, I want to tell you guys about Squarespace. Want to get you 10% off a new account? Just go over to squarespace.com, make a new account, and use code GameBreaker6. You guys need to build a website. If you know nothing about creating websites, or you know a lot about creating websites, I'm telling you, check out Squarespace. They have an amazing group of templates to choose from, and an engine that really makes the back end of creating a beautiful, elegant-looking website super, super easy. You don't have to know how to code. You don't have to know how to do any of that stuff. You just got to go in, make an account, go in the back end and start looking at it. You want to change font size, margins, all that kind of stuff. The stuff you normally would need to know HTML for. You move a slider. You type in a number. Really, really simple stuff. And then for those of you guys out there, guys and gals out there who know how to really like get in there and code some HTML and you want to do some custom work, there are plenty of open space hooks, I guess they're called. They're kind of like hooks where you can actually inject code and change and manipulate that stuff to do some really custom work to your website. But if you've not checked it out, check it out. Everything is ready. I love, love, love some of their design work. Their design is just so clean. Check that out. It's gorgeous. Go over to squarespace.com and make an account and use offer code GameBreaker6. Going to get yourself 10% off on the Squarespace today. That's squarespace.com, offer code GameBreaker6. All right, so The Division. The Division was a game that kind of came out of nowhere. But now we're getting some more information, and it doesn't look like it's going to be that persistent. Excuse me. Massively caught up with game director Ryan Bernard at E3. Apparently it's not going to be too persistent at all, which is immediately disappointing, I think, for a lot of people. So, Bern, you look sad.
I'm very sad. When we saw that trailer at E3 and then it busted out into PvP at the end, it was just like, oh, you know what? Even if you don't like shooters, that's just badass. It's not persistent. So it's just a level thing with, boo.
Is it actually fully not persistent, or is it, because I thought I read in the article that it was like kind of persistent, or is it just fully like, if you log off and there was a bad guy, 100 feet away, when you log in again, he's going to be right there 100 feet away? Like,
from what I read, the only persistent thing was your own, like, sort of central hub area, and then there were offshoots where it was multiplayer and things like that were more instance-based, but I thought, from everything I've read, and it could be totally wrong, everything was pretty confined as far as the persistent aspect.
Well, what you're describing sounds almost like what Gary was saying he wanted from Skyrim a while back. Because if you're just running around in Skyrim, you can invite a friend over and he can come in, and then, when you quit playing Skyrim again, that monster is, 100 feet away. Walk back in, he's right back there. So,
really hard to say.
Like what do you want?
You know what's interesting about all this is that like it really like the definition of MMO is just changing drastically. Like it really just continues to get blurrier and blurrier. It's just getting blurred as time goes on. I think a lot of people watching this show probably need to they want to hopefully thinking that it may be considering a traditional MMO. I don't know. What do you guys think? I mean, can the Division be an MMO without the persistent world? Is it something that we're going to consider still an MMO even if it doesn't have that aspect?
I think it can. I mean, by the strictest definition of the three words that make up MMO, of course it can. But even in that type of context, I think we already call certain games generally considered MMOs that don't really fit a persistent world at all. I mean, Phantasy Star Online is one that comes to mind right away. There's nothing persistent about it. Everything is instance-based to your group, and we still consider stuff like that MMOs. This is just a little bit of a different take and maybe a mashup. But yeah, I think it can still be considered MMO by the definition of the three words.
See, to me, there has to be something going on when you log off, and that could even be just like you said. I'm not sure about Fantasy Star Online, but I think it's something like the original Guild Wars, where even when you log off, there's still people running around in the town. Same with Dungeons and Dragons Online, which is entirely instance. There's still people. There's still economy, the trading or auction house, or whatever. So that to me is sort of what you need to be persistent. And now whether persistent means MMO, I don't know. I TWIMMO does sound worse than TWIMMO. So.
TWIMMO.
How they sort of, I guess what they said in the article was like each player is going to have a persistent area that presumably will change based on what the player does, which almost makes it
SimCity. It's SimCity. You all have your own city, and you buy.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of sounds like player housing, right? Less furniture, more bad guys, but it kind of sounds like player housing to some extent.
Well, the thing they talk about in the video too is how your goal is to like restore the infrastructure. That's sort of like your underlying the thing you're trying to do. So I guess the question is, then, how does that work when if you're trying to do that, trying to get the water and the heat and electricity going? What happens when you're done? When you get it all hooked up?
So the other thing that they talked about, what we don't know as well, though, is the PvP areas, which we don't know how they sort of tie in just yet, but there will be PvP areas that are persistent, but we have no more details than that. That's it. That's all we know, that they're saying they're persistent. So I don't know, maybe those are the areas that are kind of these always online, people are running through them and things are happening in that section of the world. You have like these sort of two segregated areas. I don't know. It's hard to say right now. I don't know if we call it co-op. I don't know if we call it multiplayer, MMO. It's not traditional, that's for sure. It's definitely something, or they're just skirting around some buzzwords, and when we get it, we're just gonna be like, oh, it's like this. Oh.
It's clearly, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Amazing we can't figure it all out from a 7-minute video. What the hell is wrong with these guys? Just done. Screw that game.
I quit. They didn't tell me everything about the game at E3. I'm not even interested anymore.
Exactly. Well, the other thing I think a lot of our players should know, because I think a lot of them are PC players, is right now there's no word on it, whether it's coming to PC or not. So at this moment, the devs are saying, they're basically saying, encouraging PC players to go and sign petitions, get on the forums, and post requests. So basically go market their game for them. I bet you a lot of the devs probably want to prove to Ubisoft to put the dollars behind making it on PC, and they're probably just like, look, they probably want it, right? They're probably looking at it going like, if you guys make enough noise, obviously some focus groups and things like that said, hey, here's the budget you guys have. This is where we think it's going on console. But if enough PC players really want it, and just, there's such an outcry from PC players, maybe it'll convince the higher ups who are writing the checks to say, hey, yeah, here's the money you need to kind of do it over. I guess it really depends on how much players want this. I think to get players behind it, though, and sign more petitions and get on forums, you're going to have to release more information and not be so confusing, especially to the MMO crowd if you want us to do it, because we don't know what this game is.
Did you guys take umbrage with the whole petition thing? I mean, they didn't start the petition, first off. So if people thought they did, they didn't. It was started by somebody in the United States, a fan who only plays PC games. But where do you two fall in on this? Because I've seen comments all over the board on Ubisoft should not even be promoting this. This is ridiculous. Don't make me beg for your product. And then I've seen the other side of the spectrum, which is, what you were just alluding to, Gary, where, yeah, Ubisoft maybe wants to really make it on the PC, but they had X dollar budget, and this is a nice way to show the investors, look, maybe you should give us a little more cash, because there's definitely more cash to be made here. Where do you guys fall on this?
I think it would definitely help to get more money. I mean, apparently they've got about 100,000 signatures already on the PC side to get this thing going. I think it's a pretty significant number. I don't think it's a crazy big number. It's like they're looking to sell probably millions. So 100,000 may not do it, but I think it's more firepower to go in there and say, hey, there's this many people actually, took the time to sign a petition. Maybe we should really consider this.
So you're okay with it, this type of campaign.
Sure.
They noticed something was going on, so they just called attention to it. Yes?
I am. What about you? What,
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
I'm totally fine with it. I've just seen some ridiculous forum comments that were way out there, and I just wanted to see if they were coming from any of us.
I mean, I guess some of the I haven't read those forum posts, but I'm assuming that some people think that it's like marketing hype, possibly sort of big, Ubisoft is kind of controlling this whole thing and it's part of their marketing campaign or something.
Right.
See, honestly,
And then there's
just now. I thought Ubisoft had started it, so then I was a little kind of in the dubious category. But now you say it was started by some other guy, unless he was,
Yeah, the big one on change.org was a guy
Ubisoft.
down in your neck of the woods, actually, in Texas, and he said the reason for starting it was
Don't
because
remind
he only plays PC games. He doesn't have any of the consoles and isn't planning on the next gen, but was really excited by the game at E3. And then it was after it had like 500 or 1,000 or so signatures. That's when Ubisoft saw it and added in their comments, sign petitions, go to the forums and things like that. Once I found out they didn't start it, I kind of just thought it was a nice little playful way of saying, let's poke the investors a little bit and see if we can't get this to happen, even if they may already be working on it anyway.
Yeah, I guess it's really hard to say what would be going on behind the scenes, but I guess it could go either way. Could be the truth, but for PC gamers out there who really want to see this, go sign your name really quick. Who cares? Like, what's the big deal? Like, what does it take? 20 seconds of your life to be part of the marketing hype? So be it. Maybe it's not so, Big Brother and conspiracy theory-ish, and maybe some of the people, down in the trenches really want to see it come to PC, and they want to just go and walk into somebody's office and be like, here's 500,000 people who signed a petition that say they want this on PC. Like, I need, another $1 million or whatever I need to go get this thing to PC. And they're just like, all right, you got 500,000 people saying.
First on my petition that actually gets something accomplished.
Such an optimist. Jason Winter, always so positive. Follow him on Twitter at Winter Informal. Winter Informal. Just Twitter at Winter Informal.
Twitter at me.
Twitter at Mike Byrne. Follow him at Magic Man 1. MAGICKMANN1. And of course, watch Derpy Dragon, the free-to-play version of TWIMMO, right here on Gameburger TV and free-to-play. Free-to-play.tv. 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 Oh, my voice is going. Follow me on Twitter, Gary Gannon. Go over to Netflix. Get a free 30-day trial. Netflix.com/GameBreakerTV. Support GameBreaker by supporting our sponsors. Netflix. We do the show live every single Friday at 3 PST, except for weeks when I have no voice, like this one. We'll be back. I won't be back next week. You're in the hands of Mike Schaffnet next week. You're in good hands. Yes. You will all be in the hands of Mike Schaffnet next week and be covering all the shows. And I'll be back the following week. So have a great week and go to freeplay.tv.